Welcome to the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure, your guide to entrepreneurial freedom. Today we'll be exploring what Jeff has learned from Ted Lasso and HSPs. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
What I learned about leadership and HSP from that great philosopher and business leader, Ted Lasso. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. Hi friends, I want to talk today about a certain style of leadership that I like very much. And I think because it's become so popular, I binge watched Ted Lasso over the last, 3 days. And these are some of the things that I've learned from Ted Lasso. First of all, I love a person that's going through a tough time and decides to do what every psychologist would suggest you do, move halfway around the world and lead and coach a sport you know nothing about. I immediately loved this guy when I saw that he was willing to do that. Why is that? Because as a young entrepreneur, as a young leader, that's something that I would have done. Sounds like a good idea. Let's make a big change. What's the example in my life? Closing my first architectural firm in Tucson, Arizona, right at the start of a big recession, and moving to Boston, a place I'd never been before, and deciding to start practicing in Boston. Because I lived in New York for a while, they can't be that much different. Oh, but they can. They are so different. When you are in New York, somebody will always talk to you. If you ask for directions, can you give me directions to the Museum of Modern Art? What are you, a freaking banana? You don't know where the Museum of Modern Art is? Everybody knows where the Museum of Modern Art is. You crazy? What are you, from Mars? Wait, are you like a lunatic or something? The Museum of Modern Art's right down there. You go 4 blocks, you take a right. It's right there. Come on, get out of here. New Yorkers will always talk to you. People in Boston, they will not talk to you. The person in the streets, they're very, very close, very, very colonial, if you will. And so it was difficult for me to try and make friends, to try and integrate. So I can relate to Ted Lasso. I think he handled it better at his stage in life than I did at a young professional in my early 30s, because it was tough. I mean, I didn't have a date. I was dating like third cousins. That's how, you know what I mean? It was not my third cousins. That's not what I meant, but other people's third cousins. My point is they didn't know him very well, but I was still willing to go out with him. So yeah, that was tough. So this is what I learned about leadership from Ted Lasso. He had a level of vulnerability, but he was still able to lead something that he knew nothing about. And he made no bones about it. But what did he do? He had an assistant coach who was kind of an idiot savant, right? He was kind of a Rain Man about sports in general, and he applied that ability to soccer. So Coach Lasso had someone on his team that knew the technical part of it. What I'm trying to get at here is that there's different parts and pieces that go into our leadership and go into our businesses. And the technical part is only one of them. Just because you don't have that doesn't mean you can't succeed if you have the right attitude, if you have the right point of departure, and if you have the one thing that I think Ted Lasso has really, really well ingrained into him, and that's emotional intelligence. He's very aware of who he is and how he comes across. He's willing to do what I think is a wonderful thing for leaders, which is to solicit input from the team, from the manager, Nate the Great, and from his assistant coach, and from the owner. At the end of the day, he also realizes that the responsibility for that final decision lies only with him. And he has to take ultimate responsibility for that decision. So even though there's all these other people that are on your team that are part of the decisions, and you're well served as a leader if you take advantage of those people that are part of your organization. But what I love to be able to encourage people to do is not forget your responsibility as a leader. So listen well and then apply well. There's a trait that I learned recently that 20% of all people on the planet have, and they're called HSP. It's not highly stupid people, but I think that if there were a survey done, I think that's probably about how many there are on the planet. I mean, just read any news outlet lately and you'll see that there are plenty of highly stupid people on the planet. It's at least 20%. But HSP stands for highly sensitive people. And highly sensitive people have these four qualities as part of their trait. They have depth of processing, right? They look at things deeper than most people do. They have the ability to kind of go deep, right? They might not talk that much, but I would hasten to add that 30% of people that are highly sensitive, they're also extroverts. They're not all introverts. So you can be an extrovert and be a highly sensitive person. I think Ted Lasso was kind of that guy. So they have depth of processing. These are people that they're kind of deep. They see things that most people don't see. They take advantage of being in environments, but they get overstimulated. They see too much because of their depth of processing, and it overwhelms them, right? They get overwhelmed. They love to be maybe at a party, be around people, a little bit of noise, but then when enough is enough, we've all seen people like this, they've had enough. It's like, hey, where did so-and-so go? They checked out, they left. They didn't even tell anybody goodbye. It's probably someone that is a highly sensitive person, but they're deep, and they're people that other people want to be around because they're so insightful, right? They see so many things and they share them in an appropriate way. And then there is their emotional reactivity to people around them. These are people that pick up on things. They can tell how the room is. They can tell how you are without you saying a word because they have the ability to discern. Think about the book Blink, right? That where there was a series of different minor cues that people communicated, right, by not saying anything. And people that are highly sensitive, they pick up on that in a really profound, deep, meaningful way. So they're emotionally reactive. And then they sense the subtle. They can tell. I have this thing where I can tell people's skin color is changing when they're not telling me the truth. And I'll ask the people that I'm with, did you see their skin color change when I asked them that question? And they're like, no. And so people that are highly sensitive, they see things that other people don't. So the trait is common among 20% of humans, but there are certain groups that it's more, the percentage is much higher. I would say in creative environments, I would say in professional environments, probably not with attorneys or brokers, because they, not so much. But I would probably say architects, creative people, web designers. We all know these people. And my goal is to help heighten your awareness of the fact that these people are in our midst. There's a great Prime Video, Amazon Prime Video called Sensitivity, The Untold Story. It's only an hour long. It's a great documentary. There's a book on it about it on the same subject by the author also did the documentary. I would highly encourage you to do that. If you're not an HSP, then you're going to know someone that is. And then you're going to be able to deal with them a little bit better because as leaders, one of the things that we have to do is to be sensitive to others in the right way. So I love this notion about being positive. I love this notion about tapping into our sensitivity. I love this notion about being aware of other people's traits. And why do we do that? Well, you could say that you're being manipulative when you discover these things and you approach it in a certain kind of way. That's one worldview. The way that I like to think of it is you're being honoring to people when you're sensitive to who they are. And then you're helping them be more of who they're supposed to be. And as leaders, as entrepreneurs, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bring out the best in people. That's why we lead. When we give other people the opportunity to provide input to the things that we're working on, not only does it make them more successful, it makes our organization more successful. And that's what we really want. We want to have a self-managing company where people are free to come to us for ways to do things better, to be more impactful. So these things that we do as we try to grow, they only come one way. I have this saying, there's no significant amount of learning that comes without a significant amount of stress. When we're learning something, when we're trying to go to another level, another dimension to grow our business, if we don't experience stress in what we're going through, then we're probably not doing it entirely right. Now, does that mean the kind of pulling out of the hair, screaming down the hallway kind of stress? Absolutely not. It's the right kind of stress. And as a leader, you have the opportunity to introduce those things into your life in an appropriate way. Why is that? Because there's so many other things that happen to us in life that we can't control. The things that we have some influence on, that we have some authority over, that we can put in place, that's my biggest encouragement to you. If you get nothing else from our discussion today, please understand that. The things that you can do and do well, by all means, do them well, because there's enough other things that are going to impact our lives, and we need margin to be able to address those. And so that's why I think it's so important to understand the significance of growing, understanding emotional intelligence, understanding highly sensitive people. You might even be one yourself. And the acronym for depth of processing, overstimulation, emotional reactivity, and sensing subtleties is DOES. Those are the four letters that start the definition of what it is to be a highly sensitive person. So what I have committed to do in life from a long time ago is to commit to lifelong learning. Why is it important to make commitments like that and to go on record like that? Well, Dan Sullivan says that an obligation minus a commitment equals a mess. My trainer that I work out with regularly, he says that it's harder to go at 95% than it is to go at 100%. The same thing is true about an obligation and a commitment. When you make a commitment, that means you are all in, that you've eliminated a lot of the other things that'll stand in your way. You've said yes to the commitment, which means you need to say no to something else. And we've developed the emotional intelligence to be able to do that in the right way, so we're not blowing people off, but that we're making the right step, that we're delegating the things that we don't want to do anymore, not abdicating, because abdicating means it's yours, I'm never looking back, but delegating in an appropriate way so it creates margin for us so that we can go on to grow. And that's what the people that we work with, the people that we lead, and the people that are part of our constituents that we provide goods and services to, that's what they want us to do. So I want to give you permission to do that. And you know what? I think that once you realize that can be part of what you do, you're going to enjoy it a lot more.
Thank you for joining us for the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure. Be sure to subscribe on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. To get more information about Jeff or to order your copy of the book, Death to the Org Chart, go to dttoc.com. Go create the freedom you were meant for.